Hello everyone and welcome to the Beaconstack webinar. Today we'll be talking about nearby notifications. So we are really excited to have you guys join us from different parts of the world. We have folks joining us from the US, Europe, Middle East, and of course India. It's a good mix of CXOs, engineers working with startups, agencies, and large multinationals. I hope this webinar helps you understand Beacon landscape better and specifically how nearby notifications will impact businesses. A quick brief on me. I'm Rahul Gulati, a product manager at Mobstack. I lead product development of Beaconstack, a beacon-based mobile marketing platform that helps retailers engage with offline visitors. I would like to remind you that you can ask questions on the chat panel. I'll answer them at the end of the webinar. Also, as promised, we will be sharing a handout on Eddystone Beacon campaign ideas towards the end of the webinar. So stay tuned until then. Also, this offer is exclusively available for our attendees. So without much ado, let's dive deep in on the topic of the hour, nearby notifications. Great. Some of you may be new to Beacon ecosystem, so let's start off the webinar with what are beacons. Beacons are essentially Bluetooth-based low-energy transmitters that help with detecting microlocation and proximity. Per se, beacons are transmitters of identifiers and not content. This is a common question that we come across where people assume beacons to store some sort of content, but that's not the case. So you have to think of beacons as a dumb transmitter. This is something that is important to understand. Beacons don't store anything else besides the identifiers that they transmit. Now there are a few things in the world of proximity marketing that generate the kind of excitement and buzz as Google's nearby notifications. In today's webinar, we will share our insights on how it will impact proximity marketing and how brands are using nearby to take the world by storm. So let's see how Google's Eddystone is beating Apple at its own game. So Google entered the Beacon ecosystem with Eddystone after Apple's iBeacon. Although they entered late, but they are fast catching up. As you may observe from this chart, the gap between iBeacon and Eddystone is closing, with 45% of top proximity companies now supporting Eddystone, up from 25% in Q3 2015. Google made a bold move early this year by announcing physical web support for Chrome. Now Chrome is a web browser by Google that is available across platforms, including iOS and of course Android. Adding on to that, Chrome also announced recently that it has passed 1 billion monthly active users, up from 800 million in a matter of just 5 months. With this integration, users can seamlessly integrate with beacons configured with a URL near them. Such signals from Google indicate a strong upward trend in consumer adoption of beacons. At this point, one key distinction that I would like to make for our listeners is that Eddystone is a protocol, nearby is a product. So what's a protocol? Simply put, a protocol is a system of rules that enables information exchange between two or more parties, while nearby is a set of products by Google to build interactions between people and nearby devices. It includes 3 products: nearby messages, nearby connections, and of course nearby notifications. But when it comes to beacons, nearby notifications are most relevant to us. With nearby notifications, brands can associate their apps or mobile websites to beacons. For example, say a user happens to be at a coffee shop, which is generally crowded during evening hours. The coffee shop should leverage nearby notifications to notify the user that she could place an order online and skip the queue. What this means is that brands can start engaging with their visitors without investing in location-aware mobile apps. Moving on. As you can see, Google has already made huge advancements as compared to Apple's iBeacons. With Eddystone EID, EID is an acronym for ephemeral identifiers. Google is trying to make communication much more secure. So what does it mean? This means A, beacons broadcast an identifier that changes every few minutes, and B, EID lets you control who can access your beacons. Only services that share an encryption key can resolve signals to useful information. Google estimates that monthly people visit 1.5 billion destinations related to what they searched for on Google. Given that, integrating mobile ads with directions to brick and mortar stores via Google Maps might just be the perfect location-based marketing technique that businesses have been in search for long. To give an example, when consumers type "coffee near me" into the Google Maps app search bar, a business that paid for an ad would appear first in the search results. Also, with Google Maps and beacons into the mix, Google plans to make Maps data much more granular than what it is today. So how is Google Nearby taking beacon challenges head on? First, by advertising a URL. The number one challenge that we see retailers face is that of building an app, distributing and keeping users engaged. Google Nearby solves this challenge by helping retailers engage with users even in the absence of an app. It does so by providing them with three different types of experiences: web URL, app intents. App intents are something that we'll talk about in the next few slides. Let's start first with advertising an HTTPS URL. These are low priority notifications that let users know about web URLs around them. So, a retail brand may place beacons in different aisles that helps users locate items in the store. At this point, I would like to remind you of questions that you may wish to ask. So if you have any questions, I would urge you to type them into the chat panel and I will take them at the end of the webinar. The second type of nearby notification includes app intents. App intents are further split into two categories: app intent with web URL fallback and app intent with install fallback. Now, app intent is something that you mention inside your Google Beacon dashboard. And with that, you can point to where you would want your users to be redirected to. In case users don't have your app installed, you can mention a fallback URL. Retail stores like Target may offer features that allow users to scan the barcode of a product and view customer reviews. Of course, most of the users don't know about this feature yet. Now say a user is standing at the cosmetics aisle at Target. Using nearby notifications, Target can now trigger push notifications that say scan barcodes to view customer reviews. If the user does not have the app installed, Target could drive her to a web page which explains about the barcode scanner functionality in detail. Now the third type of nearby notification is app intent with app install feedback. Brands can also use nearby notifications to trigger an app install, to launch an app, and perform a specific action. We will dig deeper into the conditions that are to be satisfied by such URLs in the later slides. And there are also more challenges besides getting an app installed that Google is trying to solve with Nearby. The next challenge is that of beacon scanning. In Android, apps need to declare permissions to enable beacon scanning in the background. However, there is no consistency in the manner in which the permissions are sought. For example, in the older versions of Android, such as Jelly Bean, KitKat, Lollipop, your app would first need access to Bluetooth admin permission to enable or disable Bluetooth on a user's mobile device. Once that is done, your app would then need access to Bluetooth scan, Bluetooth access to allow for beacon scanning. However, from Marshmallow onwards, Google has made it mandatory to gain access to an extra permission, location permission, to allow for beacon scanning. Now, unless your app has been doing something related to beacons from the very beginning, chances are that you probably don't have access to Bluetooth admin permission, and adding it could break your automatic updates, something that can have significant business consequences for most brands. Now, how does Google Nearby solve it? Now, any app using Nearby can scan for beacons as long as they have access to location permission on all platforms. In other words, Google Nearby has simply removed the need for apps to declare Bluetooth admin permission in the manifest. The best part, however, is that they have made this feature backwards compatible on devices going all the way back to Jelly Bean MR2 when they first introduced beacon scanning. The next major challenge that Google Nearby is trying to resolve is that of background scanning. Beacon-enabled app need to listen to a broadcast, and for that to happen, it must either be running in the background or be in the foreground. And as soon as your app listens to this broadcast, it will start running a service in the background which will then enable beacon scanning. Adding on to that, in some cases the apps might not be very efficient and could result in massive battery consumption while running services in the background. This increases the chances of users killing the app in order to conserve battery. And how does Google Nearby solve it? It solves it by making background scanning a whole lot simpler. Once a device comes across a beacon that your app might be interested in, it will notify your app via pending intent, even if your app has been killed. Getting app installs is a crucial metric that most businesses have to come across. Users find the process of having to search an app on the Play Store, install the app, and then navigate through the app to find features that would interest them to be a little cumbersome. So how is Google Nearby solving it? With beacons around, Android can now trigger an app install to launch an app and deep link with app intents. Users can tap a push notification, install the app in a single click, and then launch the promoted feature directly on the app. It's not as straightforward as it sounds because apps require explicit whitelisting from Google. But there are a major conditions that your app needs to fulfill in order to be approved or whitelisted by Google. Some of those major conditions are that your app needs to be contextually relevant, it needs to prompt for an action, it has to have a broad appeal, it can't be a very niche app serving a very limited set of audiences, and it has to direct users to the promoted feature right away. With this, let's talk about how brands are using Nearby, and let's look at some case studies and real world deployments. Airside Mobile is an innovative mobile travel app that allows users to bypass the custom line at airports. As a part of this campaign, beacons have been deployed near the departure and arrival terminal at several international airports in cities like San Francisco, San Jose, and airports such as New York Liberty and JFK. Once a user walks by a beacon, it sends a push notification to her Android smartphone, prompting her to download the Airside mobile app directly from the Google Play Store, thereby simplifying the entire user experience of downloading the app and installing the app. The BFJ Big Friendly Giant is an upcoming movie produced and directed by Steven Spielberg. The concept references the fact that protagonist bottles dreams and blows them into the bedrooms of children, and they are using nearby notifications in a very interesting way. So what promoters have done is that in partnership with its media agency, they are using nearby notifications to alert Android users that pass by these real life jars. It features 50 6-foot dream jars and Bluetooth activated Android users that come within 15 meters of a jar, they are sent a notification. Clicking through the notification gives users more information about the jars, about the installation, and about the film's release. So as we can see, Google Nearby has removed the biggest challenge of having an app that retailers faced. With Beacon Registry in play, brands will be able to lease other installed beacons throughout the physical world, thus expanding their reach exponentially. And with instant apps coming up, apps can be run without requiring installation. We feel instant apps in combination with nearby notifications will be a game changer. So let's see what industry insiders have to say. Thomas, co-founder of Unacast, a proximity network, suggests leveraging context and making apps more aware of users' location instead of bombarding users with offers is much more useful. Sharath, co-founder of Mobstack, urges retailers to identify customer pain points such as click and collect services and address them right away. All of us here at Mobstack are really excited about the release of our brand new Etiquette. The Etiquette, I think, is a great example of innovating and trying to make it as easy as possible for users to take advantage of this new trend. First of all, it allows for unlimited user interactions in the Eddy platform. It is also integrated with Google Analytics, which is very useful in terms of integrating both your online and offline marketing data. Then there is an option for rules-based rotating URLs. Now what that means is that the same beacon can trigger or broadcast different URLs based on the rules that you set. To give you an example, if you own a cafe or a restaurant, you could set up time-based URL that allows you to broadcast the breakfast menu in the morning hours, lunch menu from noon to 3 p.m., and dinner menu from 6 p.m. onwards, which is kind of really convenient for most businesses. Also, you can use custom domains in many respects. Now we realize that this is a new territory for many people. So we really emphasize on prompt and consistent customer support to make sure that you can accomplish everything that you wanted to do with Beaconstack Etiquette. It's important to note that the kit itself comes with two Eddystone compliant beacons and gives you free 30-day access to the Beaconstack Eddy platform. After those 30 days, maybe after you have done an internal pilot or demo, we have two different plans in terms of accessing the platform as you scale to larger pilots and eventually large-scale deployments. Small business plan. The first one is called the small business plan, in which platform access is $9 a month for up to 6 beacons. As part of this plan, you will get unlimited user interactions with your platform. There will be that Google Analytics integration that we talked about. In terms of URLs, for the small business plan, there will be fixed URLs, meaning one beacon can send one URL at a time. It can't be linked to a rule like we had talked about with changing the menu depending on the time of the day. So there are going to be no rotating URLs, but there's going to be one URL all the time. Enterprise plan. And say you're looking to scale to a much larger deployment, or you yourself work for a large enterprise, we have something called an enterprise plan, where the monthly subscription price for the platform is by custom pricing. And this is for deployments that are over 100 beacons. I beg your pardon. So they are fairly large scale, and oftentimes with the enterprise plan, you will also get unlimited user interactions with Google Analytics. But for your URLs, you will have the opportunity to use rule-based rotating URLs, and in addition to email support, you will get additional phone support as well. Because we realize that sometimes it's tough to roll out large-scale deployments on your own, and you will need support from a developer team. The last few features that I want to mention specifically on the enterprise plan are custom domain. So you can use your business or brand specific custom domain in that URL. As well as there is 99.5% guaranteed uptime SLA, which is critical especially with a large scale deployment where you are interacting with a lot of different users throughout your Beacon campaign. It is important again to place an order today. You can avail a 10% off on Eddykits using the coupon code BEKW10, B as in Boston, E as in elephant, K as in kite, W as in white, 10. And hurry because the offer is available only for the first 5 orders. We are posting the store link on the chat window. You can place an order right there. We did some tests in our office and we saw some people do it in less than 10 minutes. We would like to say that even with no experience at all, you will be able to get it up and running in less than 15 minutes. As I speak, we are uploading the handout and you can download it from the webinar panel. We want to wrap up by answering questions from our users, and let's see the kind of questions that you have asked. Okay, so the first question is, how does this integrate with the larger set of Google offerings to run an entire campaign? Essentially, nearby notifications is just another layer in terms of stack of technologies that Google is launching um, along with Eddystone. So there are 3-4 offerings that Google has released: A, Eddystone; B, physical web; and third is of course nearby notifications. All 3 of them are related in different ways and they have different capabilities. With physical web, you're basically limited to using Chrome, and if Chrome is the primary default default medium of interaction for your users, then of course Chrome is and physical web is the way to go forward. If you already have an app, or if you have an app in the Play Store and you want to get some installs up, then we would suggest you to go ahead with nearby notifications. And of course, with Eddystone, it is, as we mentioned earlier, it is much better than iBeacons in terms of security, in terms of it preventing spoofing and many other things. So the second question is, what is the minimum price point for enterprise plan with 100 or 101 beacons? So this is a custom pricing, and for any such or deployments which requires 100 or more beacons, you will have to get in touch with our sales team and they will get back to you. Third question is, will Google Nearby work with iBeacons as well, or does it only work with Eddystone? So unfortunately, right now, Google Nearby works primarily with Eddystone and does not work with iBeacon. This is something that Google is building on top of Eddystone protocol. And like I mentioned at the beginning, Eddystone is a protocol by Google, and Nearby is a set of products and services that are going to run on top of it. Next question is, can all brands drive app install via notifications using Google Nearby, or are there any specific criteria that brands should adhere to? Again, Google has put on certain conditions when it comes to getting your app whitelisted. Things like whether the app is contextually relevant, the kind of scale it is at, the kind of feature that you're going to promote, the number of downloads that you already have in the App Store. So there are various signals that Google looks into before approving your app. So moving on, next question is there an interface for iOS? Right now, there is, the question is a little broad. If you mean whether iOS devices can read Eddystone signals, then the question is no. If you mean whether you can configure URLs for Eddystone through iOS, then of course the answer is yes, because you can download an app by Google called Beacon Tools on iOS and configure nearby notifications directly from the iOS app. I hope you mean the second alternative, but if there are any questions, feel free to write back to me. The next question is, nearby is an app that I can download, or is it just a feature of Google that I need to turn on? That's a great question. So nearby, of course, is a service. I would say is a service by Google. When it comes to feature, like I mentioned in the beginning of my presentation, that there are three nearby products. Besides nearby notifications, Google has nearby connections and messages. Nearby connections and messages are basically meant for peer-to-peer use cases, wherein you want to, let's say, if you're building a game which has to be played on multiple screens and all the players are in the same vicinity. That's where Google connections, nearby connections and messages come in, and that's where you need to explicitly turn it on. But when it comes to web URL and getting app installed and all the good things of about nearby that we have talked about so far, you don't need to turn it on as such. Once you have given location permission to Google, and once locations are turned on, you will start receiving these passive notifications on your device automatically. The next question is it crucial for all URLs shared via Google Nearby to use HTTPS? Yes, that is important because Google otherwise penalizes you by not showing your. Yes, to use Nearby, users have to turn on Bluetooth and location functions. Once those functions are in place, Google will send a notification if a nearby app or website is available. Once the user has opted in, tapping on a notification takes them straight into the intended experience. When using Nearby, should the Bluetooth be switched on? That's again a great question. It's unless you want to use Google connections and messages, yes, you need to turn on a Bluetooth. But right now, you need to turn on Bluetooth for nearby notifications as well. But later, in coming few updates, Google is going to make it implicit. So even if your Bluetooth is not turned on, you can still view notifications and alerts nearby. So I guess that's about it. Thanks a lot for joining us. If you have any questions, feel free to write to me at my email. My email address is rahul@beaconstack.com. It's on the display. I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks a lot for your time.